I hope I'm on the air. Lady B, are you there? Hello? We shall see what we shall see. We're about to go live online, so hopefully I'm live in Chicago. Hope all's well. We'll see. Fingers crossed. Maybe today will just be an internet-only show. It's entirely possible. I'm calling into my own show just in case. Make sure I'm connected, because I feel it says I'm connected. It's Hal Sparks. Good. I can't hear Lady B, so I'm just checking that we're all good. Okay. Hi. I can't hear you. I'm online. I'm connected. I'm just making sure all's well. Okay, good. No. So, yeah, so figure out a signal or whatever, and I should start in another minute. I love it. Now I can hear you.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum. Things are going to start happening to me now.
Live exclusively for WCPT AM and FM in Chicago and streaming worldwide at chicagosprogressivetalk.com. Standing up and speaking out, here's Hal Sparks.
All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
To do the vibes.
Well, welcome to the show, everybody. What a week it has been. I honestly... remember about 100 years ago when Jared Kushner came out onto the White House lawn and said he didn't collude with Russia? Doesn't that seem like ages ago? I mean, it was a completely believable moment if you've suffered some sort of head injury. But so much has occurred since that it's increasingly hard to catch up, but we will try. We will make a valiant attempt on the show. I want to say thank you and hello to all the chat room people who are with us today. Genuinely going to be a bit crazy up, in here, because I think ultimately we may have reached, with the addition of Mooch, where you do the fandango, and General Kelly to the White House, a real, McGregor, who's he fighting? I forgot all of a sudden. But like a real knockdown, drag-out fight in the, in the White House itself. A fantastic chance for us to see, a real sort of bachelorette level of drama in the White House that we've heard allusions of between Kushner and Bannon, the factions. Obviously, Reince Priebus, essentially resigning on, I guess, Thursday night, and out of due respect for the president, allowing him to still fire him the next day via tweet from Air Force One. There's a lovely video going around where I guess the president isn't super aware that tweets are time-stamped. You would think. Maybe that's why he tweets from the toilet and kind of thinks nobody will notice it's about the same kind of zone, or thinks that all of his pro-Fox and Friends tweets that he keeps chucking up there, that those happen, those are naturally occurring ideas that he has over the course of his day and not, oh man, he just saw that seconds ago, and he's tweeting it out as if it's something he's felt for a long time. Now, that doesn't write off the entire possibility. I suppose that in and of itself, Fox and Friends is some sort of like venom-like symbiote suit that attaches itself to his nervous system. Not only follows his orders, but does his bidding. Kind of like an evil version of the Force. But over the course of the last week, the loss of Reince Priebus and the gaining of General Kelly, who is also a loss from Homeland Security. That's another cabinet position that will have to go through the Senate confirmation process again. By the way, just get used to the idea that in today's show, and I'm sure our callers will have the same issue, there will be a dozen asides over the course of our conversation on the show today, simply because at no point does there's so many issues at play. For one, we'll get to healthcare in a minute. I have a copy, by the way, of the final failure, the last bill, the one that Susan Collins and I guess over the course, let's just talk about McCain, that McCain saved us all from. Never mind all the Democrats and the two female senators. Let's just pretend that McCain. Now, the over-the-top vote, there is a reason why, again, this is all tangents today because this is how this week was. It was like a series of ADD sputterings from this White House. However, there is genuine reason why McCain did something specific, individual, and heroic in casting that final vote. But mainly that heroicism was aimed at other Republicans in that he basically threw himself on the grenade for them. That there were, word comes out that there were a dozen other senators who didn't want to vote for this thing, wouldn't under normal circumstances, whatever normal is, and decided, and were stuck because they were worried about their election chances and whatnot. And McCain effectively, either because of his belief that he may not run next time because of health problems, or that his health problems have made him face his mortality about this, or just that this is how he operates on behalf of those 12 other cowards, I mean Republican senators, he took the bad vote for them so that it could look like, oh, we've got so many lined up, it's just that, it was a hair's margin, right? So, anyways, so we get to this, we'll get to Scaramouche in a little bit, but no doubt a major element of this particular, I guess, to me, there's no more important moment than Mitch McConnell this week basically having to eat crow on the floor of the Senate simply because, and by the way, chat room, we'll get to Boy Scouts and the Scaramucci interview as well. This is one of the few days that I wished we were an internet-only show, simply because of the language freedom. I would you know what? If I didn't have to go out over the airwaves and know that there were children present or people listening to the radio that didn't want to hear that kind of language, I'd talk like the White House communications director. I know that's a shocking. That's incredibly shocking, and apologies if I'm stepping over a line by saying that I oftentimes in comedy clubs have spoken like the White House communications director did when he was speaking to a reporter from the New York Times that he said gave him reason to never trust a reporter again. Let's be abundantly clear, by the way, that he never asked that that his comments be off the record. I'm getting so far afield. This is how this conversation is going. There's so much to deal with. and it's all gibberish. Okay, the primary thing is that, and the president tweeted this morning, more kind of functionality garbage. He's turning me into I'm chasing his ADD around like Rocky chasing a chicken in the first movie he saw. Anyways, so let's go to I think I have the audio of Mitch McConnell. Let's see if we can hear the magic.
So, Mr. President, this is clearly a disappointing moment. From skyrocketing costs to plummeting choices.
All of our goals for healthcare have been scuttled, from skyrocketing costs to limited. Okay.
And collapsing markets. Our constituents have suffered through an awful lot under Obamacare. We thought they deserved better.
We just didn't have better. We didn't bother to. We thought they deserved better, but we wanted somebody else to write it up for us because we really have no idea what better is. And even when we think better, never mind.
It's why I and many of my colleagues did as we promised and voted to repeal this failed law. We told our constituents we would vote that way, and when the moment came,
wait for it.
When the moment came, most of us did.
Most of us did.
We kept our commitments.
Except we didn't.
We worked hard, and everybody on this side can certainly attest to the fact that we worked really hard.
No one can attest to the fact that they worked really hard. 2 hours before the final vote, they released an 8-page, double-spaced skeleton of a bill that was their final shot at getting passed. And it looks like a book report you bought off the internet and you didn't have enough money for the A. You bought the pass-fail one, and you accidentally clicked F. This is absurd. There's the fact that Mitch McConnell thinks that they did something this week, that they actually lived up to a promise, and that they quote-unquote worked hard is embarrassing. I would be embarrassed if I was a Republican to have someone say on my behalf that I worked hard. We all know when we have phoned in work at different times in our lives. We all know when we could have done more, or that a win or a loss happened in a sports team or what have you. Well, we got to take a break. 773-763-9278 is our number. But this, you can download this. 8 pages. No one worked hard on this. And the fact that they think they worked hard and still couldn't release 8 pages of double-spaced text, which, by the way, is all referential to tax code and current law. It is not a law in and of itself. It drafts no directive. It creates no structure for how healthcare problems will be solved. It does not. It's 8 pages of what he said. We'll be back. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. Thank you, Natalie, for super chatting us right off the beginning of the show. You can watch us at halsparks.tv, and by us, I mean me. It's me, and we might have a special appearance by Scaramucci in a little bit. Fingers crossed that the Mooch might show up.
Dreaming about being a big star.
That's right. Okay, we'll close that one. Hi, chat room. How are you? Good to see you today.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Yay!
Now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I went through the instead of the talk back, I'm going through
A straight up mic. You're on an on-air mic. I love it. All my sneaking over there in the middle of the night and cutting wires in an attempt to get you on, as an on-air personality have worked like a charm. It's a success.
It worked.
Sabotaging the board just so that you eventually become part of the show. That's all I care about. That's so funny. That's great.
Cool.
Okay, so yeah, I hear you.
I needed a laugh after Trump tweets. I needed the laugh.
Oh,
Thank
bleep!
you.
Oh, what? Get your bleep button ready, because I can't honestly promise. I can't honestly promise I won't actually say "you motherfucker" over the air, turning it into Joe Pesci, because I literally, after his freak out with the New York Times, I was doing Joe Pesci for my girlfriend, like in the car, so much that I couldn't stop doing it after a while. I was, what am I funny to you? Like, it was, all right, it's a problem. I'm fighting it so bad right now.
Yeah, so that's why I'm like kind of down, but not down, because this man gave me headache every day. All the tweets of this week is just, he blew me. I'm done.
Yeah, well,
dude, I don't know. I thought I can survive the 4 years. I don't know.
Oh, but the Boy Scouts thing was the only thing that genuinely pissed me off this week, because everything else was impotent flailing, and I'm a big fan.
Okay.
Yeah, we're coming back, aren't we? Sorry.
Not a yes, sir. Not a follower. Fit the box, fit the mold. Have a seat in the foyer. Take a number. I was lightning before the thunder.
This is Tom Hartman, and you're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, mega worldwide on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT.
Okay, so we know for a fact that the healthcare bill, that the 4 different versions that the Republicans tried to table this week, none of them landed. All of them, it was just throwing craps all night. Now let's be abundantly clear. So there was this very dramatic moment when John McCain came out to the floor, spoke to the Democrats for a minute, apparently made a deal. I don't know if people saw this. I've seen the GIF going around of the thing of him actually voting. Some of it actually shows him speaking to Schumer and a couple of other, and I think Dianne Feinstein and a couple of others, essentially saying, look, I'm going to do this, but you guys can't bone me by holding up the defense appropriations budget. That you can't slow that down to stop other stuff. So if you're going to do other parliamentary tricks, if Trump comes out and tries to outlaw, if he tries to outlaw the G, the B, and the T out of LGBT because of his viewing habits, you guys got to promise me you'll find another way to egg that bill. You can't stop that, okay? And I'm going to walk over here, and I'm going to vote this thing down. And he hung around for a little bit, and then at a point where it seems Mitch McConnell they were getting down to the last votes. They were getting into the LMNOPs, and McCain decided to just kind of put this injured dog down, essentially. He walked over, put his hand out like it was a scene out of 80 Mile, because of age and rap. Anyways, and he puts his hand out like
you're in and out.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Have I've been dropping in and out a little bit? I apologize. I will hopefully we will clear that up. Am I clear now? Am I good?
I'm like a robot.
Oh, I'm roboting. Let's see. I'm going to.
Okay.
Is better? Did that get better all of a sudden? We hope. We don't know.
A little bit, not much. You still sound robotic.
Okay. Well, let's. How about this? Let's take a quick tech break. We'll run one ad and clear the air, and then I will reconnect, and hopefully that'll straighten us out because I want to be able to read some of this. So I'll be right back. And we hope that this works. And it's always a little bit weird. And sometimes is this better, Lady B? By any chance? Lady B, am I there?
I hear the robotic.
How about now? Is that better?
Yeah.
Did that get better?
See something else?
Check one. Check two.
Okay, a little bit better.
Okay. Hopefully.
Okay, you're on.
Okay, great. Hey, I'm back. Okay, so we had a little sonic issue there. And it's
hold on.
Okay.
You still got, I'm sorry, 50 seconds.
Okay, gotcha.
This is the last commercial.
Gotcha. Okay. Thanks, Billy. Let's see. I'm very excitable.
$15.
Okay, thank you. The weird thing is, I think it's the supplemental battery that I use to power the tie line thing. That gives,
5, 4, 3, 2, Mike Hot.
And I'm back. That's right. Hi, this is Mike Hot. How are you? So where were we? Okay, so the Senate puts out this 8-page Cliff Notes, calls it a bill. McCain, in this very dramatic moment, which I believe, while and Collins and Murkowski deserve all the praise that they're getting for being against this, but essentially they're being sensible, normal Republicans. That's the interesting thing about them, is that it is not so much that there's a tremendous amount of heroism in Collins and Murkowski, except from the fact that their colleagues are sometimes violent, and that's concerning. But the reality is that they're behaving like Republicans used to behave a long time ago, that just, you should put a bill through on normal order, and you should actually have a bill, something actually drafted that looks like a directive of policy and priority. And that is not at all what was being presented ever. So, and it's even, this the kind of bittersweetness about how great the resistance was about this. There's so many people that, and especially the people, Americans with disabilities, I think it's ADAPT, and some of their constituent groups who are really going to be hit hard by this flagrant, abdication of any kind of quality governing that the Republicans have been doing. They went through a lot. I mean, people complain that it's hard to go marching or that they don't have time to go marching, but there are people in wheelchairs that had to get into the Capitol building, situate themselves where they were not easily removed. They locked their chairs so that the chair wouldn't go anywhere, so they had to be lifted out of them. They made it difficult for them, and that's effort, man. These people deal with this stuff, getting in and out of their houses, getting in and out, on and off buses, in and out of cars. Their life is an extra layer of difficulty, and yet they mustered the energy to basically politically do the hard work for the rest of the public who are going to be affected by this. What would be, what would be regular healthy people who may run into a healthcare problem later on, who don't think, I don't need to be marching about this. I don't need to be standing up about this. They did that for you. And all that effort that they went through was really just to stop something that in normal order of business would never have seen the light of day, would never have gotten to the point where it was an acceptable form of governing. We literally, it is as if we marshaled every tank to fight Godzilla, and it turned out to be a salamander. And all this effort to just get rid of all this is the insanity. So as proud as I am of the resistance and of all this, I never lose sight of the fact that all this great effort that's being expended right now is just to get to zero. What the lesson of all this resistance should be is that this is the stuff we should do for voting rights. This is the stuff we should do to get above and for agenda. But what, I guess don't know what you got till it's gone is the issue. I'm going to ride the brake on this one since we had a little bit more of it. But I want to be abundantly clear. So McCain comes down, gives the thumbs down. Mitch McConnell is standing there with his arms crossed, watching the last few votes. McCain gives him basically a look straight to his face. You can see the glare happen. It's really uncomfortable. It's like, I don't know, watching Trump look at Melania in public. You know, those stares where she suddenly loses all the life in her face because of something he said or did. And ultimately, the moment that this came down to, where, and McCain caught a lot of hell just for advancing the debate, which used to be normal order, was not extraordinary. I did not, if you'll notice, tweet anything about him, taking health care away from people and all that he was doing. The only reason people were nervous about that was that the Republicans would just use the normal order once it was open to force a bill through. And that's a genuine concern with these folks. But there had already been a confab of genuine conservatives, not the Tea Party-esque ones or the Trump fans. There was already at least a 9-vote confab that we're not going to just be slaves to either Trump or the House. There's an element of Senate arrogance that protected us this time around too. That there were a group of 6 other Republican senators that said if they didn't actually put bills to the floor for the vote, then we would not allow the vote forward. And McCain was one of the leads on that. They were on the phone with him. Lindsey Graham had even mentioned it, that they weren't going to just kind of rubber stamp the House or rubber stamp Trump. And that was really the only way through the reconciliation or through the normal order that they were going to try to get anything actually passed, was if they had to just rubber stamp the House bill. And that was never going to happen. They didn't have the votes for it. They knew it. So, effectively, when the ACA was passed, there was a group of Democrats, of blue dogs, led by Max Baucus and Mary Landry and a couple others, that said if you put single payer in, we'll stop it in committee. And so the Obama administration had to face this wall where they said if we want to get any of the ACA through, we can't have that directly in there. So we have to choose between the good or the perfect, because it won't even leave committee if we put that in there. As much as we want it, as much as we think we might actually be able to get it through, these 12 won't let it even hit the floor if we put it in there. And Obama took the hit for single payer, or the option of single payer not being in there the entire time. But the rest of the ACA, which everybody is touting is wonderful, would have never existed. Had he not made that deal. The Republicans made a similar deal on the floor outside of Mitch McConnell. They basically had I'm not going to allow this to the floor if you try to do this without the regular order. and I'll vote for motion to proceed, but I will not vote for that bill as it stands. We're going to do an actual bill process. When Mitch didn't deliver, they scuttled it. The exact same circumstance, two parties create a health care legislation to get through. They run into similar numeric opposition. It was 12 with Obama, 9 with the Republicans. And facing a bigger opposition from his own party, Obama passed health care reform, and Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump did not. So, Lady B, do we need to take a break right now? A quick one, just like a short break, and then when we come back, we'll. I want to get into Mooch and try to watch my language.
We can take a quick break.
That'd be great. Yeah, just a couple of commercials. We'll go, just to reset, and then we'll be right back after this. Thanks for listening. 773-763-9278. We will be taking your calls in the next hour. Yeah, this whole thing about Kelly firing Mooch, and I don't know where anybody thinks that that's actually gonna happen. I like.
Please. I'm very happy to announce that with 0 of the Democrats' votes, but we need more resources from Congress, and we're getting them. Congress is actually opening up and really doing a job. They should have.
Yes, this is my favorite piece of audio with Trump. Where is it?
Doing a job. They should have approved health care last night, but you can't have everything. They've been working on the swamp, but we'll get it done. We're going to get it done. You know, I said from the beginning, from Congress, and we're getting them. But we.
All right, I'll start with this.
30 seconds.
Great.
I turned out to be right. Let Obama.
Now back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, 773-763-9278.
You had to remind me that we lost Chester, didn't you, Lady B? Yeah. That's you know what, I'm going to save conversations about that stuff for when Johnny is here. He'll be with us next week, and because musically, you know, when things like this happen, he and I tend to have these bonding moments privately. About this stuff, and I think it's a conversation worth having coming up on a future episode. But when he's here, that being said, okay. So, moving ahead with let's be abundantly clear, real quick, what the Republicans tried to pass this week. Okay, they tried to pass full repeal. They did the repeal and replace, which was the health care bill itself that the House passed, which nobody would vote for, and then the skinny repeal. And they called it the skinny repeal because it's 8 pages. And effectively, it just goes through and this is a reconciliation, basically a 50 cuts at Obamacare to try and make it fall apart. It essentially just addresses it's amazing. So there's effectively 5 sections of it, essentially. But my favorite one being is that right off the bat, all it essentially does is it modifies the Internal Revenue Service Code from the Act from 1986, which is the standard operating revenue. Like, it's what the IRS goes off of now. It's when they did IRS tax reform back under Reagan, we've been operating on that ever since with some minor changes, right? So Section 5000A-C of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 is amended, 1, in paragraph 2B3 by striking, quote, 2.5% and inserting 0%. And in paragraph A, by striking $695, in quotes, in subparagraph A and inserting $0. And by striking subparagraph D. Effective date, this will be made effective beginning after December 31st, 2015. So effectively going backwards to the implementation date of the mandate and the subsidy of the mandate. How much you'll be penalized if you don't get insurance, and what your percentage of income base in that. Okay, so the next one is they strike the employer mandate. That's the second priority. Understand that this is them. You can look at the skinny bill as a list of Republicans' priorities when it comes to the health of the United States. Okay, when it comes to health care for human beings in this country, your priorities are listed in your bill. What did they hit first? What was most important to them? And how do they solve other stuff afterwards? What's the tier of priorities in there? Okay, so the third one was extension of a moratorium on the medical device excise tax. Okay, so the Internal Revenue Code of 86 is amended by striking December 31st, 2017 and inserting December 31st, 2020. So they basically extended a tax break on medical devices that would have ended at the end of this year. They extended it to 2020. They didn't get rid of it entirely because that would make the CBO score even worse. All they did was give it a 3-year bump to the next election. So effectively, none of the budgetary negative effects happen until they hope Trump is in for a second term. That it doesn't. Basically, all this is them punting their problems, as far as election issues, to the next cycle, including the phase out of Obamacare, which they were going to let ride essentially through the 2018 to protect their own butts, maintain House and Senate, and then into 2020, the real damage, the Medicaid cuts don't come in until after 2020. Again, effectively trying to do with health care what Republicans did with the mortgage market under Bush, which is plant landmines and elements of just crooked behavior run amok and make it the next guy's problem, because it's going to be so bad that they're eventually going. There's no point where it actually is going to be functional. So they get to play Santa and then hand off the problems to a Democrat, because they know they'll lose because it'll get so bad, because you can only extend the window of grift so long. Okay, so medical device excise tax. One of those things, by the way, that they probably could get through as a single piece of legislation with Democratic and Republican support. That by itself. It's not great, but they could get it through. There's enough votes on both sides to actually just float that as a piece of normal order. Maximum contribution limit to health savings accounts increased to amount of deductible and out-of-pocket limitation. So they create the health savings account thing as a permanent piece of legislation. Basically Paul Ryan's toe in the pool of eventually getting everybody to just have to save up for your cancer. That's what you do. And if you don't have enough, then you should have thought about eating. You should have thought about getting sick before you ate it at Ron Paul's restaurant, where none of the meat is checked is checked by the FDA. Okay, so or the USDA. Okay, so Section 5, federal payments to states. Amendment to the Social Security Act. Essentially, very little changes in this this big section of how federal and state expenditures go. So essentially, the establishment of a block grant idea, and then most of the text of this. And if you look online, if you're watching on the feed, I'm holding up 2 pages of this. The majority of text, actual written text in the Republican bill. The final bill that they did, the most prose written in this bill is about abortion, is about limiting money that goes to states to organizations that it's basically the defunding of Planned Parenthood. That's it. The rest of it is all minor additions or subtractions from the primary one chapter of the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act is referenced. So they're keeping one section, Section 1332, in the first sentence by inserting or would qualify for a reduction in after would not qualify for. By adding after the second sentence the following: a state may request that all of or any portion of such aggregate amount of such credits or reductions be paid to the state as described in the first sentence. In the paragraph heading, by striking pass-through funding and inserting funding. By striking with respect and inserting the funding, the following: pass-through of funding with respect. This is effectively them just using political speak to allow states to use the money block granted into the from the federal government however they would like, so that if you disagree with providing health care for your constituents, if you think there are a bunch of mooches in your state, we'll get to the mooch in a second. If you think there's a bunch of mooches in your state, you can just divert that to eminent domain for golf courses or whatever. It's up to your discretion with respect. Right, with respect to who's running the office. So, anyways, this is the final thing. This is what McCain is a hero for voting down, giving a thumbs down. This is what Collins and Murkowski are get and rightly so, get great respect and honor for voting down. But ultimately, what are they voting down? They're voting down garbage that wouldn't pass for legislation in a college course. These people have had 7 years. We got to take a break. I rode the break really big. Let's take a break right now. Understand this. Republicans had 7 years, and they came up with, it took them a year and like a month and a half per page to legislate. That's what you got. That's the Republicans right there. That's governing the Republican way. 7 years to fix the healthcare system. Trump running on, it's going to be better, the cheaper, faster, better, stronger, better, faster, stronger, cheaper, better. Good, so good, folks. So good. And so easy. I don't even know why. It's not even a problem. Like, we could totally do this. Why can't we do it? So easy, folks. So easy, folks. Okay. I mean, would you believe it? So easy. 7 years. This is all the legislative language they can come up with. And they can't even get their own party to vote for it. We'll be back. It's Hal Sparks Radio Program Mega Worldwide. So, see, it just proves they never had or wanted to come up with a plan in the first place. That's absolutely right, Amos. They have no interest. I mean, again, I don't understand why people vote for Republicans unless they just want to scuttle the country. It's like hiring a babysitter who hates kids. I don't understand it. I don't know how to cook. I don't know how to treat a wound. I don't know child CPR. I don't care to. I think there's too many kids in the world anyways. Hire me as your babysitter. Well, yeah. Because they know their constituents won't vote for them. That's absolutely right, Carl. Yeah, I think you're right, Tom. I think, their interest in scuttling the country is becoming abundantly clear. And that's why the idea of, like, genuine concern, by the way, that these people might be more open to to Russian messing about, right? There's a reason why they're okay with that. Why they're a good target.
$30 seconds, and you have callers.
Excellent. We'll probably end up getting them in the next hour, but because that'll be the easier. We'll start off the hour with them. Yeah, because for time.
Okay.
But.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
Now back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, 773-763-9278.
Okay, in between Trump describing the dirty parts of Wolf of Wall Street and to the Boy Scouts, and suggesting that that police in the country stop treating people like they're innocent until proven guilty, because I mean, who doesn't want to become Venezuela or East Timor or Burma in the 90s? I mean, honestly, why? I mean, there's a lot of good stuff they're doing that Duterte is going over there. You know, there's a lot to be said about this. He's a strong leader for his people, and sure, he extrajudiciously lines up people and shoots them in a row with the bad hombres. I use hombre because the Spanish. Never mind, it's not important. I read a story in the in-flight magazine. So this is Trump talking to the police, whom he suggested they should, basically that they should set themselves up to be sued, because he can't legally give them permission in our democracy to assault people. So in doing so, he can, it doesn't actually make it legal when he says that. So he basically, it's kind of like he was saying it to the people who are like rough up protesters, and I'll pay your legal bills, which he won't and can't do. Okay, so this is him. He's talking to the police, and he starts off with, they need more funds for MS-13. Okay, by the way, they have all the funds they need on a federal level. States deal with their budgets. What they're asking for is federal help for more money for law enforcement to fight MS-13. That's his job. Okay, so here, this is him talking. This is my favorite turn. The vote on healthcare had just happened, essentially.
But we need more resources from Congress, and we're getting them. Congress is actually opening up and really doing a job. They should have approved health care last night, but you can't have everything. Boy, oh boy.
Can I hear that part again?
You can't have everything. Boy, oh boy. You can't have everything. Boy, oh boy. They've been working on that one for 7 years. Can you believe that? The swamp.
The swamp. Oh.
The swamp. You can't have everything. Boy, oh boy.
Okay,
But we'll get it done. We're going to get it done. You know, I said from the beginning, let Obamacare implode and then do it. I turned out to be right. Let Obamacare implode.
Oh, by the way, this is the sound of a couple hundred cops clapping for the collapse of the healthcare system in our country. Not all of them there, by the way. If you'll notice, even the cops behind him, not all of them clapped. But it's like the Boy Scouts. There was big chunks of them that were, vociferous in their praise of the idea that you should just let a bill fail and then everybody will come clamoring to his help, instead of actually constructing and presenting an idea. That's the applause. That's him getting applause for this.
You can't have everything. Boy, oh boy.
Boy, oh boy. Boy, oh boy. He sounds like a character from an old Warner Brothers cartoon or something. It's kind of amazing to me. This kind of you guys better watch out.
You can't have everything.
Boy, oh boy. It reminds me of Christopher Guest and Billy Crystal's character. I hate when that happens. Remember when the other day I got a paper cut on my eyeball and I accidentally squirted lemon juice in it?
You can't have everything. Boy, oh boy.
I hate it when that happens. Don't you hate it? That's just ridiculous. Oh, and somebody in our chat room just mentioned, by the way, planted applause, perhaps? Yeah, we already do know that the president has this thing about making sure that there are people at the events he's at who will cheer what he's doing. But never lose sight of there is a big chunk of people out there who either believe this stuff or are so afraid of the other stuff they'll let this stuff slide, and that's an increasingly the group of Trump supporters that you're seeing. That the baseline, this is what they're talking about. This is the final. The big fear for them is that he's going to ruin healthcare, probably tank the stock market eventually, ruin currency, affect trade and all that stuff. I don't know anything about that stuff, and it always seems to mess up or go great without any input from me. But what I can tell you is there sure are a lot of Mexicans in my neighborhood now, and they didn't used to be. And there's some Muslims walking around like it's okay. And that person is effectively okay with trading off his future for what he thinks is dealing with a threat in the present. And this is not a new playbook. This is not something that has just been discovered by Donald Trump. This is something the Republicans have used a lot, and it's why they're in the pickle they're in. By the way, that letter from Pickle, adorable. You know what also is adorable? This.
I'm very happy to announce that with 0 of the Democrats' votes, the motion to proceed on health care has just passed. And now we move forward towards truly great health care.
Remember this one?
For the American people. We look forward to that. This was a big step. I want to thank Senator John McCain. Very brave man. He made a tough trip to get here and vote. So we want to thank Senator McCain and all of the Republicans. We passed it without one Democrat vote.
You think, by the way, he's happy about that? We got to take a break. More of your calls. We'll take your calls after the first of the hour. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. Nancy, there's a lot of Boy Scout groups across the country who are effectively were horrified by what they saw, and by the way, the ones who go to the jamboree, like any kind of other convention-like behavior, yeah, we want to shank Senator McCain. That's right. And by the way, has anybody written their Laszlo Toth letter yet? Hockey, can you imagine Batman and Batwoman recruiting LGBT veterans to KKK? Sure. Broder testified for the... I did. The William Broder testifying for the Senate Judiciary Committee, and then that Trump put out. That's when Trump put out his tweet in regard to that this was somehow this vindicated him because Fusion GPS was gathered intel for the Russians, when in reality they're an Oppo research firm that's like saying the mercenary I hired also worked for bad people. Pinata. My name is Donald Trump. I'm 9 years old in my head. Okay, folks. Okay. I'm 9 years old. People call me Orange Hitler. They call me Cheeto Brains. They call me Mr. Cotton Candy. No good. No good, folks. No good. Yeah. He started the week by saying transgender people can't serve in the military, which, by the way, they still can. Thanks, Mike. I know. Is it going? Am I still going out over the air? Is that your concern? Yeah. The mic is hot. Still hot. Always hot. The hotness. I almost went into Baldwin's version there. For the hotness. No good, folks. You can believe that? These people can't get stuff, But we're going to do it, folks. We're gonna do whatever Putin tells me to. I don't know. I like demoralized under his breath Trump. That's my favorite Trump. Folks, I don't know. Whatever Trump. Whatever Putin tells me to do, he likes Trump. Always a problem. Folks. No good. Can you believe that? Laszlo Toth, you don't know the Laszlo Toth letters? Don Novello, who did Father Guido Sarducci on SNL, created a hyper-patriotic character called Laszlo Toth, and he wrote letters to people, to businesses, and ultimately to Nixon and others as Laszlo Toth, and got responses, got answers. I bet if you sent a Laszlo Toth letter to Trump, he would answer it. They would read it. They wouldn't know. Will we ever get to hear demoralized, enraged Trump? Yeah, it'll sound like this. Under the advice of counsel, on the advice of counsel, fifth. No good. No good. Under the advice of counsel, no good. Trump then look down and kick the senator. I don't care. Stupid president. I don't even want it anyways. Okay, where's I got it.
Director Anthony Scaramucci joins us.
Yeah, there he is.
let me talk for a little bit.
20 seconds.
Okay, cool. The Mooch.
You're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I've had people walk out of me before, but not when I was being so charming.
Video streaming at halsparks.com.
I don't care for you or for the putrid sludge you're troweling out.
Damn fuss-faced little pimp stick.
True progressive talk.
Might be a good time for you guys to give up.
Welcome back to the show. So, real quick, so the president started off the week with saying that transgender people can no longer serve in the military. And that turned out, that is, by the way, not the case. There is no written directive or policy put through the chain of command that actually changes the policy. You can't legally change policy. I don't think that affects people like that via tweet. There's nowhere in that where the government just couldn't spend the next 10 years getting sued by service people because you can't give a right and then essentially take that right back. That's an absurdity. But not that the president wouldn't try something that's absurd. I mean, certainly he seems and by the way, there are two competing stories as to how that happened, but the one that seems to have the most legitimacy to it is that there was a group of right-wing Republicans in the House that were going to hold up funding for the wall, the transparent one, a.k.a. the fence, a.k.a. that already exists, that they're just repairing and calling new construction, whatever. Anyways, so they basically said they're going to hold up that funding if he doesn't stop transgender people from serving in the military. So he tweets out this thing on behalf of them and thinks that does it. And by the way, if those people are stupid enough to believe that, then let the tweet stand and go and let everybody continue to ignore Trump in his flailings. So, okay. So that happens. That goes down. And that's how he starts the week. This week, Sean Spicer had taken a walk because of Scaramucci. Word gets out that, that they're going to replace him and here comes Scaramucci. This is the guy who's going to be in charge of messaging going forward. He calls up the New York Times after apparently they mentioned that Sean Hannity and some people from Fox and Friends came over for dinner. Okay, never mind the fact that if a White House coordinated with the press like that, I remember when Obama had a friendly gaggle of reporters, people who are arguably on the team, over for a meeting. The hell that rained down on him from the right because he was setting up Pravda, right? And then now, Fox News is mad on his behalf because he should just be able to have dinner with Sean Hannity and Fox and Friends. I don't know how you eat around those people. Anyways, that's another story. I just think it's like an aging R gang. It's like if you took the Little Rascals and just aged them horribly. That's what it would look like. Anyways, so the Mooch gets mad that this information gets out, right? He's angry and upset at two things. Two leaks, okay? 2 leaks coming out, okay? You got somebody on here is leaking out my stuff, right? First of all, they put out this message, okay? They put out this message that, okay, I get a piece of information. You might want to know this. I'm not going to say who told me this, but it was the president, okay? And then they're going to release something. I'm not going to tell you what, but it's legislation about, I'm not going to tell you what, but health care. This is the methodology. This is the, I'm giving you the inside scoop. right away after telling you I shouldn't tell you this habit that people in certain lines of business all have. It's moronic and silly, and especially when it's over a hot mic. Okay, so Scaramucci comes in, hey, and embarrasses every Italian American in the country, and then and continues to do so, by the way, using it as a, one Italian to another, just, we're just Italians. Italians are talking like this. And then, okay, so he comes out, he does this, he calls up the reporter and says, you don't tell me who told you this. I'm going to fire everybody. I'm going to kill everybody in here, okay? And you're going to be all mad. And then all their deaths, you could have saved just your one guy. One guy could have gotten hit. Now I got to hit all of them. And it's on you. It's not on me. It's not on me. It's on you. It's on you. I got to whack these guys. I got to whack everybody in the office now. I got to go in there. I got to shoot everybody because you won't tell me which guy I should shoot first. Okay? Okay? So just don't. Okay? So don't. So tell me who it is. Seriously. Okay, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do it anyway. Tell me again. So he basically threatens to fire the entire White House communications staff because one of them, he thinks one of them leaked to the New York Times, and therefore, by the way, you do know that Sean Hannity and Fox and Friends were there, and that their entire staffs know that they went there, right? You're aware of that, correct? You're aware that it wasn't just the White House staff that knew that he was there, that Sean Hannity was there, and that Fox, that a media company's staff all knew it. But it's got to be somebody in here. I don't trust any of these guys, okay? Because Reince, I can't tell you what I call him because I'm a nice guy. I'm not going to say it, but I'm going to yell it. And then he basically blames Reince Priebus, his own office, calls Reince a paranoiac. He's a paranoiac, and an effing schizophrenic, paranoid schizophrenic. And in doing so, basically says, none of these leaks could have come from anybody but in here. Okay, first of all, that's just dumb. Of course, there are a dozen other places it could have come from. Not the least of which is people who see Sean Hannity and the Fox and Friends folks in the car rolling into the White House through the window down the street, who they talked to at the house when they were also in town. I'm having dinner with the president. Okay. And then Scaramucci never at any point says this is on background or off the record. Never says that. Okay, this is the new director of White House Communications. Never tells this reporter whom he is swearing at, and threatening other people's jobs and the guilt that those people will now be homeless, I suppose, onto this reporter. While, by the way, there were hundreds of other areas where this leak could have come from, and it never even occurred to him. It must be inside the White House. So he does all this. Okay, then he calls in to Chris Cuomo's show, and when this reporter is on, and tries to walk back the fact that this article was published. And then he, by the way, after the article was published, he said, I made a mistake. I trust a reporter. That'll never happen again. There was no trust in this. An act of distrust would be you told him it was on background, you told him it was off the record, and he printed it anyways. That would be an act of distrust on the part of this reporter. Screaming obscenities at a reporter and then expecting him not to report it just 'cause is not a trust issue. You're a moron. Okay, and then he calls in a Cuomo, and this is his way of covering.
Director Anthony Scaramucci joins us this morning. Anthony Scaramucci, can you hear us?
Yes, Ryan, still there. Yeah, so when I was speaking to you last night, Ryan, I said it was unpatriotic that you weren't telling me who the leakers were. I was on a plane landing in New York. I have to go visit my mom, and so you may have caught it.
I had to go. My ma, she's got this thing with her hip, so I get upset, right? Sometimes I get upset. I don't mean to, all right? But you made me a little angry. I got a little bit, and I was just I hadn't eaten. My blood sugar was low. I was like, hey, hey.
Wrong way. I was teasing you, and it was sarcastic.
Yeah, you're unpatriotic. I was being sarcastic. You're the opposite of unpatriotic. You're being totally patriotic by not telling me.
It was one Italian to another. It wasn't me.
But it wasn't me, actually swearing at you and threatening other people's jobs if you don't tell me what's going on, or then leaking garbage about my fellow White House administration officials, which is exactly what they're doing about me. And I call it's a leak when it's coming from them, but for me it's what do you okay.
Trying to get you to say if you could give me some sense for where they are, because I have a responsibility to.
I was being sarcastic. I just need to give me a sense. Tell me if I'm getting warm. If you could just help. I wasn't really saying you were unpatriotic for not telling me your source. I just wanted you to give me a hint, like what kind of, did they pleat their slacks or not? Like what? I'll say stuff, and I'll tell you what. If I'm right, you break wind. That's our code. As I call you on the phone with no relationship to you, except that we're both Italian, I'm presuming. Who knows if your mom didn't take a dad's name and you were adopted? I don't know. But I'm just saying, based on that ethnically, I should be able to threaten you, and it's okay.
The President of the United States.
Anthony?
Anthony, you're on the air, Anthony.
You said you didn't.
Anthony,
I totally respect
dummy.
your journalism and your integrity.
Anthony, I don't know. Hold on, Anthony. I just want to make sure.
Shut up.
I don't know if Ryan could hear you.
Okay.
But just in case.
Because he hung up and left, dummy. You're the White House communications director.
It did go out over the air. So.
Yeah, dummy. And this is not confidential. We don't want you calling us later and swearing at us because you didn't know you were on when we told you you're on.
So he heard what you meant when you were talking to him about being unpatriotic. Let's just reset us at zero here. What's going on in your perspective?
I want to reset at zero, but I also want you to know that I just spent about 15 minutes on the phone talking with the President of the United States.
I don't want to, I'm just saying to you, I was talking to somebody very important, the President, and he said this. This is the gem of this whole garbage.
Who has given me his full support and his full blessing. And I'm gonna read you something, Chris. And
he gives me his full blessing. I have his total trust. He did, however, write down a note for me that I'm to read verbatim because he thinks I'm a moron.
You bear with me. And the President also told me, if you're nice to me in this segment, he'll let me come back on the show. Is that cool?
That was supposed to be a joke, but I'm so demoralized because of my screw-ups and my job is on the line that
So why don't you let me talk for a little bit?
Because that's how interviews work. You just let me gish gallop a bunch of stuff, and then maybe...
And then you can ask me questions.
Okay, we got to take a break. After this, your call, 773-763-9278. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega, worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
If you're nice to me...
Billy, why? What's the... I can't stop. It's hard. The hard part is not swearing. I can say fart, by the way, on the air. Rachel said it the other day. That's my bellwether. Oh. a troll straggler somewhere in here. I'm trying. Well, let me. Then Drift Glass, I got to come on your podcast. Thank you, Hadil. Yeah, no swearing. That's the hard part of doing this. Yeah. I'm Don Jr. and I'm Eric. And how does it move? I can't tell if the stream is frozen. No, I'm just reading. I go into C3PO reading mode sometimes. I apologize if that's not somehow obvious. Check. All right, there you go. I do have a podcast, the Superior Podcast. You can listen to it. We release it a new episode every Monday. Check it out. That's about other stuff. I don't talk as much. This is my politics home. We talk about all kinds of other stuff on there. Last week's was about meditation. All right.
25 seconds.
Excellent. Enthusiasms. Mooch's financial score was leaked. Yeah.
Now back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, 773-763-9278.
Welcome back. Let's take some calls. Who do we have, Lady B?
We can go with Donald.
Excellent.
Aurora.
Yes, we can go with Donald. Go ahead, Donald.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello? Hello?
Yep, you're there. Go ahead.
Hello?
Hello, Donald. You're there. Yes, Donald. Donald and Aurora. He can't hear me.
Hello?
He can't hear me, Lady B, for some reason.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Tell him to go ahead, Lady B. He can hear you.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Yeah.
Hello?
Go ahead, Donald.
Yeah.
You're coming in very weak.
It's an emotional
go ahead.
thing.
Okay, well, I'll try to say what I have to say. I watched what they did through the as far as McCain and all the other two Republicans voting this thing down. Well, to me, they're not heroes. They really saved the Republican Party. They saved their own party. That's all they did. That's all they did. Because if I recall, all three of them voted 61 times to repeal and replace Obamacare over the course of those last 8 years.
That's right.
So really, they just did them a favor. That what bothers me is this: they're going to start sabotaging Obamacare, where we can't even get health care that's even decent or affordable. Right now, I'm paying $1,100 on Obamacare. I'm on Social Security and Medicare, but my wife is 56 years old, and I have an 18-year-old daughter. That thing went skyrocketing, and that's the way that they're going to go down, doing it to everybody. Now, if the Democrats don't start speaking out against this nonsense and holding them accountable for all the I'm sorry?
Yeah, no, I'm listening. We can
Hello?
Hear you. Yep.
If the Democrats don't start speaking out and holding these people accountable with the sabotage and letting the people know that they've been sabotaging it for quite some time, then, it's going to open the door for them to do whatever they want.
You're right.
Because we don't speak out enough.
That's right.
Now, Chuck Schumer came up with this New Deal thing. I read through that thing. It is a farce. It is a ridiculous thing. The Democrats better start getting a little stronger. I have a bad connection here, and that's all I'm going to say.
Okay. Thanks, Donald. I hope you can hear outside of that. I could hear you just fine, and you were terrific. Fear not. And I will say this: you're absolutely right. This is my frustration with this. All this great effort by the resistance and by the Democrats has ultimately been to get to status quo, to get to zero. What we really need next is that the Democrats articulate a couple of specific bills to fix the ACA. And there are a couple of areas where they could do it kind of right away. One is they could They could affect like certain tax caps for what what the poverty level means for certain family sizes, to expand Medicaid a little bit further, so that people aren't on the bubble if they have one good year, because oftentimes health concerns can last over several years, especially when especially when they're dealing with things that are ongoing or chronic. That vacillation can really hurt you. So you'd have to really elevate up, maybe make it a 3-year tax thing. Like sometimes in corporations, you can, kind of review or renew or file taxes in 2-year, 3-year chunks, that kind of idea. If you could do that in terms of what your healthcare, how healthcare is affected by your taxation and by your the money you make, if you could make that so that there was a longer window, so that you go, okay, you've been stable at this income for 2 years now. Now you move from Medicaid to the exchange or what have you, or you have to supplement, and there's a graduated system for people as they go up, as opposed to this kind of like cutoff point, which essentially Republicans use as a way to affect people like welfare. Is that and why, by the way, a lot of people who are trying to get off welfare or something along those lines will oftentimes have to, they'll give up hours at work or whatever because the loss of childcare and other services and the money doesn't balance out. So it's better for them to work less and maintain, because they're never going to leap up past that section. That's right. Tom in our chat room said income averaging, and I think that's wise. That's an easy fix. The buying across state line thing, which, by the way, Democrats put in the original ACA, and Republicans and Blue Dogs insisted on taking out. But it's something that the president says he likes, which, by the way, freaks out his own party. But they say he likes it, so let him have it. Do those, put those up as individual fixes. The medical device tax. Have Democrats float the medical device tax as a single part of a bill they know will pass. Add that as their own amendment to that, if that's and make nice in that regard. Do regular procedure in getting these things done. It's not a tooth pull. And while you might get some trouble from the extremes on either side of the party, the centrists that do exist, and the normal just senators and House members who want to actually get something done, the Senate can actually do this through reconciliation, and they can definitely get 60 votes on all of these individually. That part is crucial. It's really, it's and those fixes are possible. Let's take one more caller before we take our break. So we got a couple minutes, so I want to get somebody else in. Who do we have, Lady B? I don't know that they can hear me.
We can go with Mark.
Okay, cool. And if you can't hear me, then Mark, if you can't hear me, then go right ahead.
Hello, Hal.
Hi. Go ahead.
I agree with Don. Previous caller just called. Schumer's making a mistake by making an olive branch. There's nothing they're going to compromise on. What you just said is wrong. Schumer's got to wait to the next election, so there's more Democrats in the Senate and in the Congress, and you go single payer or public option or nothing. You stand by that ground and you don't give up. And Joe Manchin and those guys need to pony up here and start saying public option and single payer, or we ought to primary them.
No, I disagree.
Thank you.
I appreciate the call. I completely disagree. And I think there is something to be said for actually trying to accomplish on a legislative level fixes for the ACA in the interim. And because I'm here to tell you that while the public is on its way to accepting single payer, there are entire states where that will never fly, where the senators will hold out and where they will block it in committee, just like the Blue Dogs did. What you can do is, and this is what the ACA allowed for in the interim, which is actually, I believe, a better system, which is allow the purchase of across state lines of insurance. That you could purchase insurance from companies across state lines. That they're federally available, a federal exchange that allows you to buy insurance across it. And included in that is the ability to buy in to state single-payer systems like Washington State, like Massachusetts, like Vermont, and like California, if we can actually get the holdout here that's exemplary of the Baucus Caucus that stopped the ACA's single-payer system in California. If California can have its own and people outside the state can buy into it, then they can have a single-payer system, nonprofit, where they will know that the company is not trying to screw them out of it, their money, because the state will have a version of single-payer, and all the profit just goes to state infrastructure and budgetary reasons. But they're not going to fight to choke people's care because they don't have to meet a shareholder level of growth. They don't need any growth, actually. They just need a reinforced. They need to solve their healthcare problem by state, and then if any profit comes in, it's a budgetary plus, not a necessity. Unlike a company, and that's actually more functional because a federal single-payer system might not work at times, but if a certain state manages theirs better than another, or a model works slightly better, you can, as a constituent, swap. You can go from Washington's nonprofit single-payer system to Vermont's, or vice versa, if they're better managed and provide you with better care at a similar price point. That right there is better than the British and Canadian system. It is easy to implement, and technically satisfies this libertarian idea of competition and states' rights. There is zero reason why Republicans should be against this, except that they're in the pockets of insurance companies that don't want the competition from a nonprofit state. We'll be back. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. We'll take your calls after this, and we got a couple of good happy ending elements, too. Stick around. Selling across state lines, unless the introduction of the single-payer states are. I'm drinking mineral water, just tangerine mineral water, just Le Croix, sweetie, Le Croix. This is what I used to drink in high school. If people at parties, so people didn't think I wasn't macho for not drinking alcohol. Because I would walk around a party in high school, and somebody would offer me a beer or something, and I'd go, "Oh yeah, you think you're tough? Take a sip of this." And they go, "Oh my God, what's wrong with you?" That was in the ACA, Jen Becky Davis. However, it is not being fully implemented, and it was a trigger point, and so they have been pushing back what the triggers mean. Essentially, it's a little complicated, but essentially, it absolutely should be in place. But yeah, single payer to succeed at the state level, those states need to have larger populations like California. That's why the measure failed in Vermont, right? And that's why if they had a bigger swath of people to that wanted to buy into it, and you had healthy people who want insurance in case they have a situation, then a lot of those people, especially young people, if it's mandated that you have to have insurance, would rather buy into a state like Washington State or ultimately any of the blue states, a national blue state single player system. It is not a bad idea, Maureen, to create a blue state exchange between governorships. That would be an interesting thing to do from a Democratic Party level. Yeah. I only drink Amos. I only drink sarsaparilla when Jeff Sessions is being is speaking to Congress. Get my sarsaparilla. And thank you, Natalie and Billy and Amos and Jamie for super chatting today. Really appreciate it. You guys are why the tech, at least on this side, is improving. I can't speak to the station, their own issues, bless their hearts. But I'm doing my best over here to make sure that stuff works a little better. That's right, Billy. California was on their way to having a single-payer system set up, and the Democratic Speaker of the House held it up in committee. Exactly the point. Hello. I'm all right. Getting very excited. Which one?
25 seconds.
How again does one do a super chat? There's a little $sign down in the chat bar. You click that, and you can donate to the show. You can contribute to the show. Every little bit helps. We also have a Patreon. I do drink.
I'm Dick Kay from Back on the Beat, and here is the mega worldwide radio program with Hal Sparks.
That's right. Dick Kay follows us, by the way, after the show, and there is so much, both Chicago and specifically Illinois politics that are going on right now, that he's your perfect point person to sort all that stuff out, because he knows which closets have bones in them. That's all I'm going to say. Let's take another call, 773-763-9278. If you can't hear me, just go right ahead, and we'll somehow work out when I'll transition into talking.
We have Bob Lawler, your lawyer?
Oh, Bob the lawyer. Yeah, Bob the lawyer. Absolutely.
Okay.
Hey, Bob. Welcome.
Hello, Hal. I hear you pretty well, by the way.
Oh, excellent. Good. Okay.
I have a little different take on this. I'm getting an echo, but I'm going to speak through it. I'd like to speak to you about McCain and the Republicans. I feel like we're being conned here. And I think what happened was that the medical industry, basically hospital corporations, medical doctor corporations, etc., they got through to the Republicans and say, you guys can't do this, you're going to crash 1/6 of the economy. It wasn't about Medicare patients, and, frankly, they don't care about the people who would be hurt by this. But they basically said, you're going to crash 1/6 of the economy, you can't do this. So now they have to save face with the rich guys they promised the tax cuts to. So I think they got a hold of McCain, because if he would have wanted to just crash this out of principle, he just had to stay in Arizona and say, I'm being treated for cancer, and we can't have this vote. But instead, they come up with this scheme. He comes back on a private jet, and he walks off, and then Trump calls him a hero before he throws him under the bus for not voting for the ultimate repeal. And then McCain does his thing with the thumbs up and meeting Schumer, and now he's the maverick again, and he saved, he prevented all these people from losing health care on Medicaid, and I feel that basically this is just a con for all of us, and especially for the people who would get the cuts in their capital gains rates, who aren't clever enough to figure it out that they're being conned.
Mm-hmm. Here's the thing. I agree that a big chunk of the votes that they both got and didn't get for each of these different iterations of the bill have a lot to do with the things that you brought up. And there was definitely a finagling behind the scenes from McCain's point of view to make himself look good through this and in how he carried this out.
I think McConnell did it.
I know for a fact he didn't. McConnell, at a certain point, was angry that the House bill went through in the form that it went through, knew he would have trouble passing it, but thought that they could get, once they got the reconciliation, getting the debate started, once that vote happened, that they could kind of gish their way through this and just rush through one of them would come up with enough votes, and they were on the margin on each one of them for different reasons. And they were the problem that they had was that they'd have they had the too cruel, not cruel enough problem with their bill. That all the stuff about death panels they screamed is arguably truer in everything that they put forward, but it was not true enough for the Rand Pauls of the world, and it was too concerning for ultimately consistently Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski, and so they didn't have them. This is I don't doubt that they are occasionally capable of Machiavellian manipulation on a grand scale, but the reality is they honestly have no bill, and what they're trying to do, what they were trying to do ultimately with this was sneak through a tax cut while pretending to give certain members of their base the destruction of the ACA. Most of what they did, knowing the repeal was never going to make it, most of it was going to hold the line.
I agree with that, but I think that the medical corporate powers that be basically got through to them and said, you can't do this no matter how you do it. You can't let this pass. And then they had to figure out how to save face with their
constituency. And I don't think that Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski threw themselves on the grenade for the rest of the Republican caucus.
No, but I'm saying that I don't think they did it, but I think that ultimately that most of them were in far too deep and couldn't figure out how to get out.
I'm certain that's true of a chunk of them, but having read what they actually put forward, I'm telling you, this is not masterful, political architecture. This is not any, and I feel the same way about a lot of when people.
I agree with you. But because I just think that they don't think out the consequences before they spew out the policy, just like, of course, Trump does that.
Yeah, well, and also, again, I think Trump gets more credit, and this gets into the zone of fear of blaming the victim. But so often, I hear about the masterful manipulative skills of Donald J. Trump and his ability. He just knows how people, what people want to hear and how to say it in just a certain way, and his linguistic skills and blah, blah, blah. And the reality is, on so many fronts, that it's really what people are like. It's not that he's great at doing it, it's that we as a collective continue to suck at defending principled points of view. And that we are in some cases easily manipulated. That on so many fronts, people will say that Donald Trump really knows, how to talk to these people and really get them riled up and whatever. And that's arguably true in a generic sense, but kind of so what? Ted Nugent gets the same cheers for saying the same stuff to the same crowd. It's not impressive. And so at a certain point, we've got to take responsibility for it. And this idea that, by the way, that Democrats who try to put forward fixes to the ACA in any way deserve to be primaried, like the caller before had said, is dangerous business. It's foolish. It has no long game. It is all about an imminent threat, and it doesn't get you where you want to go. It might make you feel good because you think you're making a fight, and it gives you a self-righteous high. But ultimately, it destroys the value. This is exactly the Trump voters who were so offended by, who were horrified by civilian deaths that happened via drone strike in the under the Obama administration, which the Obama administration had specific policies to try to mitigate as much as they could. There have been more civilians killed in the first 6 months of the Trump presidency in our war behavior that were killed in the entire 8 years of the Obama administration. In 6 months, more people have been killed because of that kind of behavior. And people voted for Trump thinking he was going to lower that number. And at a certain point, they were comfortable using it as a punishing wand against Hillary Clinton and their perceived slights of her against Bernie or what have you, but ultimately making the decision that culling the herd or a win by attrition was more important than the lives that could be saved by managing your mood and controlling your behavior and acting like an adult. And the idea that Democrats should be participating in any kind of a cull over the next 5 election cycles is asinine. And it is exactly why Donald Trump is in power and exactly why the Republicans run the House and the Senate. And it's exactly why all the power of resistance that Democrats and progressive-leaning independents feel the strength of what was able to be accomplished this week, making this, according to Lawrence O'Donnell, Donald Trump's worst week so far, the failure of the attempted repeal and destruction of the Affordable Care Act by the Republicans, all the effort put forward by Democrats and progressives and liberals to stop this bill from going through, if that effort could have been pushed towards positively moving us towards the availability of multiple single-payer systems across and the ability to purchase those across state lines through long-term focused demonstration and lobbying, as opposed to, if you don't immediately sign off on this, we're going to go against you no matter how shaky our hold on power was. That's why there have been more civilians killed in 6 months than in 8 years. And you have to take that seriously. And you can't say, you can't scream, we did it and we saved the ACA if you were saying that, Obama should have been drummed out of the office for getting it passed without single payer in the first place. You have some quality of thought. Understand that this is a long-term issue. You can't get a lap band or do 6-minute abs and solve this problem. This is a long-term exercise program. This is health care. This takes a lot of long-term focus and patience and care. And if you're going to primary somebody, you damn well better have it set up with somebody that will get what you want and they can get elected. Because if you don't win and that Democrat stays in, even if they come out for what you want, they come out from a damaged position. They're now on the edge of getting voted out of office. And so when they do sign up for, like, oh yeah, we can do this, I will vote for single payer, they're now on a razor's edge voting in their own state, where they have to question that going into the next election cycle. Who's going to primary me the other direction next time? Instead of going, you know what, he's trying to take us a step forward. I think we need to go forward. We're gonna rally for this all the time, but we're not going to threaten somebody because they want to get there via steps. Because if Obama had done don't ask, don't tell the way certain lobbyists effectively forced him to do DACA, it would have been undone just as fast. So consider that. Contemplate that on the tree of woe. We'll be back. That's funny. Yeah, scale that guy down because it's guys are just talking pork ribs in the end of Danzigo and Gatto our house for a 10-day countdown. Oh wow. Wingers have the best wings. You guys. Trying to get Jackie on so y'all can hash it out across the lines. Yeah, no. Bison Lair, she and I are in agreement on this. I only believe in the across state lines. I'm not doing Politicon this year. They didn't ask me. I think Anna Kasparian probably said she wouldn't show up if I was there. Because I dared to support Hillary. Let's see. Yeah, so no, I understand this. Jackie Schechner and I are, I think, in agreement with this. And if I'm mistaken, I'll ask her, and I'll have her on because I think it's absolutely a conversation worth having. But we are both like in the same place that you can have this. The single payer, the across state lines thing.
20 seconds.
Thank you. If as long as you can buy into the state single payer systems, that's the important element. Without those, it's just essentially a long-term monopoly if you're not careful. Yeah.
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. It's now time for the happy ending.
Welcome back. I think we got a couple more calls, so let's take a couple at the very least now that they can actually hear me.
We have George.
Excellent. Hey, George. Welcome.
Hi, Hal.
Hi.
I can't take credit for this suggestion, but Tom Hartman noted that the Democratic woman senator from Hawaii, and I apologize for not knowing her last name. Her name is Mace, suffering from stage 4 kidney cancer,
right,
and flew all the way from Hawaii to be available for these votes. This also points out the lack of integrity of Mitch McConnell and the Republican leadership in that they were willing to hold up the processes of the Senate until John McCain recovered to return and vote, but not for any Democrat who was suffering an equally serious illness. So while McCain is getting the credit for being the courageous maverick, and Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins are getting the fair credit they deserve, a very valiant and courageous Democratic senator from Hawaii is not even mentioned, not even on MSNBC last night. And I think that's a tragedy. Tom suggests that everybody should call her office and say thank you. And I've done so, and I hope everybody else does.
Sorry, we're getting a little bit of feedback. I'm not sure why that was, but I completely agree. And you're talking about Mazie Hirono, who's she's, let's see. Yeah, she's I think so. In the she's a congressperson. I'm fairly certain that's who you're discussing. But I think she's actually. I'm gonna correct that in a second just to make sure. But yeah, a voice for I in the U.S. Yeah, okay. So, I believe that's who, and I agree. That's she doesn't get enough credit. As by the way, most of the Democrats aren't getting any credit. While all this attention goes to, that. While McCain and Collins and Murkowski are getting all this love from Democrats for doing this, we're shrugging off the fact that Democrats do this, and for all practical purposes, you must recognize that they are holding a line well. That you must, if you're complaining all the time that the Democrats don't have aren't consistent, or it's herding cats or whatever, all these complaints about the Democrats that you see as almost like a running gag that have about all the substances that New Yorkers have about making LA jokes. In my own personal opinion, you must recognize that as Democrats or as progressives or liberals, when they do something right, they deserve more attention than the Republicans who just in a moment didn't do the wrong thing. You understand that we are celebrating John McCain and Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski as heroes because they broke with their party by just not voting yes on 8 pages of crap, on garbage legislation that wouldn't pass the snuff test. The sniff test. Listen to me. Kill. Everyone says death to Obamacare. The snuff test. It wouldn't pass the sniff test in a normal government class. The big act of heroism and respect shown for them. Good for you. But what did they do? McCain said it was okay to open the debate. I, for the record, am for that. I do think the Senate should be able to open debate on almost everything because I want the other side to defend their nonsense. I want them to stand up there and explain to me why they think certain cuts are worthwhile. I want them to tell their story. So at least we can have a debate where they can't go, they're just vilifying us or they're making something up. I want these people on the floor, on tape, on record, saying why they support cuts in Medicaid, why they think single payer won't work. And I want them to make their case as fully as possible. And I want debate to continue to happen through this. So when McCain opened debate and agreed to this, and he was, everybody panicked that, how horrible, he flew back to take health care away from other people. No, he didn't. He came back as a parliamentary senator. He did what normal order should be. I have no problem with that. I really, 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 really don't. I have a problem a little bit, though, with them getting kudos and points from Democrats all over the place and from liberals and progressives, some of whom vilified the ACA in the first place because it wasn't enough, suddenly clapping about the heroism of Collins and Murkowski and McCain and not recognizing that the Democratic Party held the line, bought concessions from other people to maintain that line. This is a time to celebrate the fact that the Democrats have a platform and are maintaining it and are trying to inch that platform forward all the time, like real politicians who actually care about governing. Yesterday, I had somebody asking me, on Twitter, where's they were following that piece of hypnotism from Trump. The Democrats have no plan; they're just obstructionists. Okay, first of all, Democrats do have a plan. It's called the Affordable Care Act. It exists. There are 10 bills and amendments put forward that Democrats have ready to fix elements of it as you would fix any large piece of a large piece of legislation on that size, as it's affected by the environment or the circumstances of the elements that it covers. I am here, by the way, and this show will be I've only got a minute left, so let me just finish the minute out by saying a couple of things. One is the happy ending. The $30,000 Tesla got released yesterday, and the problem they're going to have is making enough of them. We are in a situation where they can't make electric cars fast enough. That's a good sign. So kudos to Elon Musk for even trying, and keep swinging for the fences, man. We got your back. Secondly, as much as everybody's excited about the heroism of the women of the Senate and on the Republican side and John McCain, the real heroes in this is the Democratic minority that was able to hold a line and the resistance that backed them up. I need you to recognize that. Stop poo-pooing the Democrats because the Republicans say you should. Don't buy what you're sold. Like Carl in our chat room says, it's an intellectually lazy argument. You guys are awesome. We will see you next week. Johnny will be with us next week. And I'm going to see if I can get Jackie Schechner on, because I think we should talk more about this, because the Dems' health care amendments and bills will be coming forward. You guys are awesome. Take care of yourselves, and take care of yourself in the world of Mooch. Okay? Okay? Okay, everybody be careful, all right? Okay. Thank you, Lady B. Cool. I'm going to stick around for a second after this because I don't have to race off immediately. Let me save it. Let me check one thing, and I'll be right back. Hang out, guys. Be right back in just a moment.
Homeland Secretary of State Rex Tillerson also quickly weighing in, singling out China and Russia yet again, calling them the principal economic enablers of a program that threatens not just regional but also global security.
It's been a historically hot July in Miami. The National Weather Service says the city is having its warmest month on record.
Okay, I'm signing off on there. Yeah, so I figured out what's robotic about my sound. Literally is there's a it's the battery. It's literally the kind of battery I use to power the thing makes a difference in the sound quality. So bizarre. So yeah, hey, from one Italian to another, I was just busting your balls. I was just breaking your bag. I was just binging your bong. You know what I'm saying? Thanks, all right, going. You're an excellent educator. Thank you. I try. I mean, this whole thing about like we got a primary Dems that aren't 100%. You're like, do you just want to keep walking into rakes? How about you help elect the most electable Democrats in each of these areas, and then you slowly but surely guide the ones that need guidance via showing up and protesting at their office. And if you go, well, they're not worried about us voting for them, then the protest won't mean anything. Yes, it will. And what you ultimately do is you support, you over-support, and you show deference to the politicians who are making this stuff happen. Like, I don't get it. How do we short-term address insurance companies leaving whole regions with one or no options? Well, Vice Learner, I think that has to be an amendment to the ACA or an addendum to the ACA. But it does. Essentially, they're not leaving the areas. They're the only ones on the exchanges. You can, in a lot of these places. By the way, in a lot of these areas, you only had one insurer anyways. That was always there. The states in and of themselves have far too much control over how to bifurcate this whole thing. What the easiest amendment I think would be to put forth one that says that any area that only has one insurer, an insurer from a regional neighboring state, meaning local, like you could, as much as you might have to drive across your state to the one insurance office to see somebody in person in Oklahoma or let's say Kansas, you could buy within a reasonable space into the next sector if they don't want to sell, if you've only got one and that's your only choice. But the plans themselves are effectively the same per how much you're making. So that has to be addressed more than almost anything else. The other thing is, and this happens in a lot of red states, where you have cancer clusters and chemical plants and all this awful toxicity that comes from coal and mining and fracking and all that kind of stuff. This is the unspoken part of the healthcare crisis. This is the issue that nobody really wants to talk about, is that it is more poisonous to live in certain places than others. And then when when people in a certain geographical location can't get health care, when the actuarials, the insurance companies are looking at this, has nothing to do with diet and exercise or what have you. It's the amount of lead in the water. It's the amount of toxic chemicals in the ground. It's the fact that they can tell by, from the actuaries. Like, I mean, watch Aaron Brockovich. You downwind or downstream from a chemical plant that insurance companies know are going to give you brain cancer in 20 years. They're going to pull out of your area or fight to not have to do anything about it. Long-term effects of the U.S. oil and gas boom caused by fracking may be pretty dire too. That's no question. What is this? Do you think the GOP will finally move on from healthcare, or will they try to attack the ACA from behind closed doors? No, they'll try to do it through some tax issues, but honest to God, it's not going to move in its repeal form. It's not. They're going to have to start doing fix-it bills, and they're gonna have to do them in such a way that they are minor tweaks in other bills, but even still, they can't completely undermine an entire law that big through one of these little, line by line cuts over time in a bigger bill. In like defense appropriation bills and shit like that. They won't be able to do it. They won't be able to throw that in as part of it because it'll get stripped. They'll, if anything, here's what you should hope for. Here's what it looks like will happen, and what should hope for is that all across the red states right now, people like our caller who was saying we should primary anybody who's not for single payer, who's a Democrat, who's not, by the way, campaigning on single payer. Let's understand the big difference between the political safety to campaign on an issue versus actually being okay with voting for it later. See Obama on a bunch of those issues. Like, he was wise enough to know if you campaigned on it, you'd lose, but eventually you could coax the country in that direction, and he that's exactly what he did on a myriad of issues, including Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and gay marriage. Played a major part in that happening. If he'd have just come out for it, he'd have never made it past certain primaries with certain conservatives in the conservative Democrats, or who might even be okay with it themselves, but knew he would never get elected, and he would make election hard for them in their state. And growth takes time, and it's a messy process. So I personally think that there are Republicans doing right now what that caller we had who said you have to primary everybody, but you can't make up, if you start doing that, it's a slippery slope to just decimating your own electoral strength. And that's exactly what happened to Democrats. And yeah, I know. Yeah, thanks, Carl, for jumping in there as well. The president cannot dictate full spending or whatever. He can try to undermine the subsidies for the exchanges and for insurance companies exchanges, but if he takes direct action like that, he will be seen as sabotaging it on purpose and will own the damage. That's why he's saying just let it implode and we'll worry about it later. So what he wants to do is not do anything on it. And he's certainly not going to, if he makes that specific effort, if Donald Trump literally makes the point of saying, this, we're going to cut off the subsidies, then at that point he owns Obamacare's failure in that case, because it's like saying, like I believe we need a stronger police presence, and then knifing their tires. Yeah, everybody's running. Ronner in Illinois. Everybody's running the same Donald Trump playbook as if it's actually working. The idea is that they would direct. The other one is they would direct the IRS not to enforce the mandate. But again, that's direct action. If he does that, then it's news cycle after news cycle saying he's just trying to kill it by not doing legislation. And that can be, you can file lawsuits against that. And even in such that he would want to do that, you can argue that the courts could stop him because you can argue damage, and that has to be done through legislation because it's law. And if you're saying if not enforcing the law can cost people their lives, the courts can step in and say that. So there you go. What's happening, Fabian? How are you? Go to Tokyo for the sounds like a great idea. Hi, Refugio. Good to see you. So do I think there's a threat to it? Yes. Do I think it's a permanent threat? No. I think it's kind of like his transgender ban. There's no, he really doesn't have the understanding necessary to have a functioning legal basis for what he's doing, and it would obviously get kicked out. Thanks, Tony. Wow, appreciate that. Let's see. What are my plans for the week? So this week, by the way, how I said earlier, forgive me for repeating this debacle is redolent of the Gingrich play from the 90s over the budget impasse. Backfire so badly. Editors. Absolutely. They're spending the money to get signed at the for negative ads. Mm-hmm. But it still doesn't make the program not work. Even the ads, like it's just promo money. He can shuffle that around, but it's not actually going to affect the quality of the actual program. So look at Kansas how government programs work. Not at all. Their state budget is a mess because tax revenues are way down. Absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly it. So think of the ACA and the funding for the mandate itself, and then the supplemental payments. Those things are written into the law, have a certain structural benefit that can be measured. If you want to remove them, you still have to make a case that removing them has more upside than down. And he isn't capable of doing that. There is no way that he can CBO score or show in any kind of legislative way that he is that by cutting off the subsidies and by eliminating the mandate that he makes the healthcare market better for people. There's no way to make that case. And if he does, and basically what the courts will end up saying is that if you're going to make that case, make it in legislation. Go back to the law stands unless you can change the law. The same thing would be to the allowance of transgender people to serve in the military. Now that they can, and there are 15,000 active service members, to undo those people's livelihoods and the ancillary benefits that they express and experience freely working, operating and living in a workspace, the legal work needed to wrangle that into existence, that alteration in policy, now that it has been implemented for a time, and there was no structural damage done by its implementation that you can make any kind of a case for. Now that that's how things are, it is harder for you to undo it. You can't just tweet it out and get rid of it because you don't like, or you don't like them, or you want certain members of your constituency to make up for it. To back you up because you can't get health care done, or you're going to have to fire Jeff Sessions, and you're worried that they're going to be mad at you. And the reality is that the nation has moved on in a lot of ways, and that there is no express. There's no reasoning behind transgender discrimination that matches any genuine concern about military readiness or budgetary constraints, because being transgender is a physical circumstance. I won't call it a disorder because I'm not a fan of order in the first place. but it is a physical circumstance someone finds themselves in, that they are born into a situation that they cannot change without the closest they have to a solution. In some cases, it's transition. That's not always how people choose to deal with their gender dysphoria or it is as individual as the human beings themselves. So even in the case of having transgender people who are in the military, not all of them are going to transition. Not all of them are going to want to. Some of them may require massive amounts of transition. And others are going to forego it because it is their choice. But the reality is what it costs to do it, the emotional cost of dealing with it is no different than dealing with the emotional cost of someone who is an amputee or someone who has any other circumstance that requires them to have medical procedures to either save or maintain their life. And it certainly ventures more into the world of how we treat PTSD in our soldiers and our understanding of mental health in this country than it has anything to do with military, a lack of military readiness. No, Natalie, it didn't take it down. I got hit for copyright thing because Lady B plays regular songs during the breaks, and if she plays one too long, it gets picked up by the machinery, and I have to go in and clean it out. It'll be up soon. It just takes them a while. I do not think Lindsey Graham will lead the impeachment charge. I think Lindsey Graham will cement the bricks. Here's the thing. Both Lindsey Graham and John McCain have said and done things over the years that I certainly do not agree with. I think in many ways they allow their own personal ick factor or religious beliefs to override their genuine duties as people who participate in lawmaking in a secular country. I'll just put it that way. But both of them fall within the realm of people you can disagree with in chamber and in voting. None of them are going to dirty trick you out of your vote. And at a certain point, we have a responsibility to understand that if you lose a vote because people believe a certain thing and they fight for that belief and they are, they are sort of vindicated by the number of votes, they may need to be educated. You may feel like they are behaving in a morally reprehensible way, but that's a difference of moral opinion on your part, and that's okay to have in a democracy. As a matter of fact, it is going to. Well, and Jen Becky brings up a great issue right now. She goes, I think many black churches are evolving on the issue of LGBT issues like mine. That's awesome. I would not be ready to write off Christians in the country or churches in the country overall because they've had heretofore a biblical view of any number of things: a woman's place in the public square, gay rights, any of these things. The minute they're willing to evolve on it, all conversation to the contrary ends. It was like the same thing with Ted Nugent. Like, I can disagree with him on politics, and I can think he's gross. And I also can think that when he advocates violence, it's horrifying. If he says one day, "I'm not going to do it anymore," done. That's good. Okay, great. You've made progress. You're not going to. You've figured out. So it's important to understand this, that the minute somebody comes to your side on an issue, it doesn't behoove you to immediately fear the Benedict Arnold in them all the time. Sometimes it's valid and it's something to be aware of. However, I think we have a duty as part of as being part of a democracy to hear all sides. It's why I'm not for people shutting down the alt-right lectures at at colleges and whatnot. Let them speak. Put your own event across campus. Put a camera in the room. Put their speech is up on the wall, and then break it apart at your event. Call it a dissection. Focus on the fact that you can have a difference of opinion without dehumanizing someone, because that's integral to being a progressive. And then when there are people that are obviously hardline against this, the irony that people are somehow, coming to to applaud at the feet, almost in a groveling sense, of Collins, Murkowski, McCain, and to some degree Jeff Sessions now, while just buzzing past the very people who are actually doing the Democrats that they vilify the rest of the time. People will constantly crap on Democrats nonstop as Democrats, but the second a Republican votes like a Democrat, they're a hero. Well, then you can't be a hero. You're not doing anything heroic. You're not doing anything heroic if it's normal for somebody else. And if you are saying that he's being a hero doing, or that Collins or Murkowski are being heroes for doing what they did, cool. But that means all the other Democrats who voted that way are also heroes. Can you explain how the NHS is becoming in England, the tier system, because of cost, because England's not that big, and because like every other country, they have a mix of they have a mix of aging populations, shrinking workforce, and immigration that where people entering into what was effectively a British system are, if you end up coming in new to it from outside the country or whatever, and then have effectively it's their pre-existing condition problem, if that makes sense. Billy, I agree, Billy. But but you understand what I'm saying in terms of if you're going to say they're doing something great, maybe even not even use the word heroic if you don't feel like it. But understand that when you're saying, the Democrats did something awesome, or McCain did something awesome, or Collins or Murkowski did something awesome, good for them. That a certain amount of like pride. If it's not, then if you're not going to kudo them for heroism, then have some democratic pride. Voicemail. Let's break that down, shall we? Campus rally. Yeah, that's right. Absolutely, Michael. I would love to go do, like, if they're going to do, if you have a right-wing speaker coming to your school and you're not interested in what they have to say, or you've seen their speech on YouTube, so you don't need to see them again, that this is just a rock star tour for most of these guys. The young Republicans will bring them in, or some reactionary group on campus will bring them in. They should have every right to do it. Again, I'm 100% all in on free speech. Now, when it comes to having a platform, if it's a totally private organization, it's up to the people who run it whether they want to take that heat or not. But if it's a school that gets public funds in any way, they kind of have a responsibility to at least entertain the idea. They don't have to let everybody who wants to speak there go through, but they do have to do a barrage of ideas, and the broader the better. So I do think if a student group can afford to bring somebody to campus and they want to do it, they should be allowed to do it. And if you oppose what they're saying, then have a concordant speaker or panel, even better, of people who will come and counter that argument. I think McConnell's days are numbered as well, Tom. I think there's something really right to that. And mother may be short for easy, Billy. It's not, because he calls her mother because he's got this 1920s view of what a household should be like. I'm still incredibly disturbed by that video of him having to pull her hand away from Ivanka's kid. That was I don't know what's up with that. It was super peculiar. She wouldn't leave the big Jesus statue, and then when he walked her over, she was shaking hands with Ivanka's kid and wouldn't let it go of her hand. He had to pull her hand away. So weird. Yeah, he's weird. He's a weird person. Mike Pence is that was interesting. It's all bound up. Girls can live past 100. That's true. But he might be, dropped off on a beach somewhere. Well, that's the thing. Okay, Ellie, totally great point. September's coming, so Trump needs to get his fiscal plan in order. Someone should tell the West Wing that, because I don't think they know. Ha. You're absolutely right. The budget and the debt ceiling, all that stuff is going to come upon them unawares. He's going to they're not going to be prepped for it at all. And then ultimately, he's going to be stuck in a situation where they're panic scrambled. This guy didn't even book hotels for the G20. Of course he doesn't have a budget ready. And then he's claiming that he's benefiting from the last year of the the last year of the Obama administration, all the economic stuff that's been coming because we've been growing the economy back to normal. Had it not been hit back to zero under George W. Bush, it would have probably gone. Had we gone from Clinton to Obama, this spike and all that stuff would have happened the first year that Obama was in office. But yeah, totally CR. You're absolutely right, Tom. They're just going to throw that through. They're going to he's going to balk about a government shutdown. Somebody's going to shake the numbers in front of his face and go, "Oh yeah, your first year in, you couldn't get you run everything, and you had to shut down the government because you can't get anything through. You couldn't get health care through. You're going to have a government shutdown because you don't have a budget. You're not going to do what's the other, a tax break. You're going to try to do the biggest middle class tax break you've ever seen. If you're capable of doing it, there'll be a version in the Senate that comes for it, removing the top 1%. You would be able to pass a middle class tax cut in this Congress as it is, with 70 votes, losing 15 on either side. If you just did a big middle class tax cut and expanded effectively, you in an attempt to bring people in the middle class, you expanded what the expectation of the poverty line is as far as benefits go, so that people don't have to cut back on work to get they don't literally lose their benefits until they tier up into the next economic bracket, and therefore they could keep working through the tough time during the growth window. If you did that, you could get that passed. But he doesn't understand that, and you won't. So this is going to sneak up on Amos, do you know they're doing a Doc Savage movie with The Rock? They're working on a Doc Savage movie that's been in development for a while. Yeah. Nat, we might go to Paris tomorrow for the day. Okay, rub it in, Julie. For Pete's sake. You see MSNBC with Rich Engel, owner of Kaspersky Labs and others on last night. Lots of evidence, long-term intrusion of Putin and his minions. Absolutely. If you haven't done it, Richard Engel's been doing Fridays during Rachel's slot. They've been doing these long-form pieces. Effectively, these were bits that she was working on with Richard Engel, but they literally are afraid to send her to Russia or not protect her. So Engel's been doing these things because he's traveling around. He's always been in this stuff. Richard Engel and I had a bunch of great conversations at MSNBC back in the day. Oh yeah, Paris, California. There's Paris, Kentucky, man. You just got to hit Versailles and keep on driving. Oh man, I know it's like going to Illinois from Wisconsin, Julie. It's actually the other way around, technically. I think, right? You're in Germany. It's technically like going to Wisconsin from Illinois, but rub it in. That's what I mean. Russia too much. Yeah, exactly. You can't go to Russia. Too much polonium over there. It's dangerous, man. It's like I worry for her. When she got sick, I was like, does she have a food taster right now? Yeah, there's just no way. Yeah, I'm not. That's why Richard is doing it. Bless his heart. He's a strong dude, very smart. And again, a lot more pragmatic than people are comfortable with. Sorry, I'm just, pardon me for believing in diet and exercise over some sort of like pill and a rubber band around your stomach. She needs an air sniffer, right? Lots of family around Paris, Illinois. She's just trying to make us feel bad. It's impressive. Yeah, I'm hoping. Let's see. I'm hoping to be in Illinois for the eclipse because Havana's supposed to be the place to go. So, I'm hoping we can make that happen. There's a Cuba, Illinois. Yeah, Julie just being rough. And she'll be watching the show just watching on her phone, being in the chat, all that stuff. Yeah. Whoops. That was fun. Did you see that Falcon Heavy is due to fly in November? Yes. Very exciting. And again, look at the big post. Yeah, I'll make it over there at some point and do the show from there, Julie, just to rub it in too. I'm just reading back through the chat a little bit to catch up with where you guys were. Yeah, cool. Thanks, Tony, by the way, for super chatting. That was awesome. Totally unexpected out of nowhere. Thank you, Tony. Most of it was based on looking for authentic apps. Budapest over Labor Day, guys. Sorry, China and the spring wraps. Yeah. I have an ex-girlfriend whose family lives in Budapest, and I've always wanted to go there and just visit them and say hi, because I spoke to them so many times, back in the day over, video phone and all that stuff, and back literally sending videos back and forth, like hello, little messages. Paris, Ontario is absolutely Dave Hills. If you get a chance, by the way, go check out Dave Hills' his witch taint show. Cam is in the other room with Gigi, his grandmother. I think they're it's Saturday, so he's watching cartoons. I think try to keep that old-fashioned tradition around. Starting over again, travel across USA, down through South Carolina. Yeah. Yeah, it'd be kind of cool to go. I mean, I guess I could go to Portland and check it out there. Oh, I'm in, not this week. Well, this week I'm at the Whiskey. I'm singing at the Whiskey. The following week I'm in St. Louis doing stand-up at Helium there. It's the first time doing that club. Your training has already begun, Power Surge. Remember the GE commercial highlighting the beauty of Budapest? Hey. Harry Dean Stanton. Witch taint, yeah. Cool. Yeah, so today I'm off to a DGA event. The Directors Guild has what's called Digital Days, and so they let people, like vendors and people, are coming up with all kinds of digital filmmaking equipment and cool stuff, and they get together and kind of show the stuff and give you demos so you know how to use it if it ends up on your set. Oh, I want to check something real quick, and you guys can help me see if this actually works. Let's see. I'm going to check this out. I think this works. Does that work? No? Doesn't matter. Okay. Sorry, I'm bringing something up, guys. 1 second. Cropping. What a bunch of crop. Wafting. There you go. Down to here. Sorry, 1 second. I'm clicking around. Give me 1 second. I'll work it out. Hold on. There you go. That's not the wrong one. This guy. All right, maybe that'll work. Hold on. And this one's the same deal right here. Here you go. And get ready, guys, because now you're on. Hey, look at that. It's the chat room. What do you know? What's happening, people? Whoops, hold on. Whoops, how did that happen? I accidentally clicked Google Maps all of a sudden. That was fun. Ta-da! This is our first attempt. Look at that. Oh, zip. You guys talk so fast. Testing gear like a boss. That's right. Yeah. So that allows me in some cases to be able to, in future do this where we can have kind of a back and forth, and so at the very least, you guys know what I'm referencing when I'm talking to somebody. So, and there will be a bit of a crazy delay occasionally, but there you guys are. Hi. There you are. And then I can. This is what I do when I'm watching. I scroll back through and see what you guys are talking about and try to catch up. Yeah. Ta-da! Yeah, it's like Twitch, totally. Yeah, eventually I'll start posting my my PlayStation VR games on Twitch. That'll be the irony that I'll put as much effort into all this, and then that'll be the thing that like takes off. That's how it works. Yes, presidents can only be impeached if they've been cobbled into a crime. Last year, sorry. Yeah, that's right. Last year when we were in Arizona, it was 125 degrees. All sorts of it was. We were in Vegas for a couple days, and it was 110 at 9 o'clock at night. Yeah, I just want to. I want to stream games, but I also want to have a camera on me of my stupid head wearing the device while I'm doing it. I do play Call of Duty, not as often. Obviously, during the summer, I have a very narrow gaming window because Cam's, home all the time. He doesn't have school, and I limit what kind of gaming he can do. Mostly, I think the one we play most often is either Disney Infinity, just the toy box of it, and because they've discontinued it, and the Lego Avengers. I think that's the one. Yeah, Lego Superheroes. It's the Marvel one. We play both of that together, and we do it. He has to do 6 pages in his workbook and write a page about what is something fun that he did or something that he enjoyed, and if he wants to play games, and he doesn't always get to do it, but if he does, he has to, he does that every day, and that writing and that work every day, and then if he wants to play games, I'll play with him, but he doesn't play by himself. It's funny because Ethan was really into Minecraft, my girlfriend's son, and I worked with him on that, and I used to mod the computer while he was working on it, and he even called me while I was on the radio, I just noticed. But Cam is 6, yeah. So he's like, it was so funny because he had the weirdest thing where he wouldn't, if you had a remote control car, he couldn't get when he was like 4 or 5, it was really hard for him to understand the relative back, up, and forward. Like if it was going that way, it should be forward, right? And so it confused him, whatever. He played I think a Lego game on a video game for about half an hour, and then suddenly he understood the concept of relative, reverse, and forward really well, and so he could do a regular remote control car. It was cool. Natalie, I mentioned last week's episode will be back up. It got a copyright strike against it. Yeah, well, yeah. Cam, he has to draw a picture. His whole page thing is he has to draw a picture and then describe in a few sentences what the picture is of, what he's talking about. So. I used to play video games when I was a kid like a maniac, and it, I have an upright video game in my house. I prefer standing to do it, and I certainly love video games. I don't have a problem against them. Elon Musk plays, I think, almost an hour a day, if not more sometimes. Like it's what he does to relax, and the conscious distraction caused by it can actually help your cognitive ability as long as it's not just triggering a dopamine rush and you're not getting anything else out of it. I often will game, and this is a little inside baseball. I will often game while I have my iPad playing an instructional video on something I want to learn about just to my left, something that I've watched before, so it's not like I'm watching it for the first time when I do that. so that I'm not like just blowing it off. I've watched it all the way through, some video about editing or about using special effects, or like lenses was a big one, like learning different lenses and all that, and focal lengths and stuff, and it just takes some repetition. So I put that down, and I that's what puts it together. My upright video game is a Sinistar. Go look it up. It's the first video game that ever had a synthesized voice that spoke. Mr. Davenport is a god. Thank you very much. And it takes one to play one. It does have. I upgraded the board in it so that it has multiple games, but it is a traditional Sinistar, and it does have Space Invaders in it, which is beautiful, and is still, I think, as nerve-wracking as anything else. I have played Metal Slug. I wasn't super into it, but I wasn't against it either. Most play games are fighting RPG. When we play a game, I love that idea. All your base are belong to us. Oh no, Michael! All your base are your base. I don't know if anybody's seen that. If you haven't seen the "All your base are belong to us" video, I'm for it. It's very funny, and it's one of the first memes, I think. Hi, Extreme Gamer 67. How are you? I guess after we transition out of the show and we get into this zone, it becomes an entirely different show, I suppose. They used to have fake mustaches in olden times for that sort of thing. Hello. So, this is all way outside my zone. Never got past Centipede. Centipede, is first of all, I always thought of it as the grossest game because the ball, because people were just rubbing their hands on it all the time. It just seemed like it had the most, and it would spin. It would have, the most gunked up, Cheeto-y thing because you could never really clean it the way you could. You could, at nighttime at a video game place, you could come over, and if you had a joystick and a button, you could take, spray a little Lysol on something, just wipe it down. It was relatively clean, but I don't know how you ever got the Centipede ball completely clean. It's gross. Yeah. That the only thing grosser is human centipede. What happened? Globe light bulb, the light over. You can't find anywhere. Oh, good luck, Integral Destiny. You don't need a 150-watt 5-inch globe light for a light over your kitchen table. That's ridiculous. 150 watts is incredible. Go get it. The 5-inch diameter will be fine. You don't need a 150 watt. You need a 150 watt equivalent. Just go get a nice LED bulb to transition all your lights to LED. Is that Jenny's phone number? Yeah. 867-530. Tiny one just like Trump. Yeah, tiny little hands. Centipedes have bulbs. Shame on you. All right, calm down. Calm yourself. But anyway, so in terms of gaming and how we do it or whatever, I'm not completely against. Happy birthday, Extreme Gamer! Look at you. Happy birthday. That's awesome. It's a decorative bulb. I'm old and need bright light. Only incandescent bulb in my house. Gotcha. Okay. Like one of those. What are they? Edison bulbs? Look into those. Trump the video game Pong.
I'm probably the best person at video games that has ever lived. Probably many people say this, but the best ever. I often will play. I don't play with other people because they don't like losing, but I'm the best on PGA Golf on Nintendo. I sink 3-foot putts.
Hi. I'm gonna have to just those.
No, it's great. I use the little mini games that look like a tiny
Pac-Man. You can buy the little tiny ones. I can play that like it's full size. I played video games since Donkey Kong days in California. I did a little too much. You know, the Camden just yelled for Gigi, come here and look at this. I make a great candidate for Super Mario. I don't remember Ray Rayner and TV Pal. I don't think so. I haven't played video games. By the way, Donkey Kong Jr. is tough. It's annoying, and the kind of low end strategy of that the internal workings of it are capable of is why everybody is afraid of AI. Why aren't there more lab rats? Because we got canceled by Disney. That happens, and partly because the kids got too old. That was really what they were doing. They might eventually create a new version. Eventually, you can have my underwater ball when you pry for my charge scores. Yeah, going to get my 10-year-old is the kid following with the chat right on. Yeah, Cam and his GG, they're like a sitcom waiting to happen because they go back and forth. It's so funny. Thank you. I'm glad you love Lab Rats. I love doing it. Great group of people. We sorely miss it. Yeah, Disney has a 4-year window usually. We went longer, so before they spin it off. You'll notice the shows either go away or change names after 4 years. So, let's see. Ew. So, Game of Thrones, big Game of Thrones watchers in here? My mom loves it. I don't really watch it. I have a hard enough time. My girl watches House of Cards. Hold on. I'll roll this up. There you go. My girl watches House of Cards, so I have a hard enough time keeping up with that. Yeah, I have a great idea about how the Lab Rats Elite Force cliffhangers get resolved. Me taking over the show and continuing it for 2 more years. And not that Chris and Brian wouldn't have done an awesome job. I just don't know that they'll want to go, get back in there with Disney. Yeah, what % of child actors have careers as adults? More of them continue to work than general pop. I guess if you more than people who decide to act later in life. I guess I don't know. I don't know if I qualify as a child actor because I was 16 when I got my first job, and I was acting in professional theater at the same time and doing stand up. I was a child performer maybe, but 16 is you can drive yourself. It's a little different, but the biggest I mean, all you hear about are the train wrecks, but then you also don't realize how many people, like Ryan Gosling and stuff, started when they were kids. They're still around. There's a lot of people who started when they were young. And when you think of all the people who are second gen, technically speaking, it's the equivalent of being a child star in a lot of cases. They had little bits because like Nicolas Cage is whatever Francis Ford Coppola's nephew. So he was around it at a very young age. So inside the business, I don't know what his child acting stuff was like too much. I'm sure it was extraordinary. But he got, you definitely caught on as an adult. There's a lot of adults where you're like, oh, yeah, that guy was on a show when he was little. Had no idea. Still in your PJs. You're welcome. Chaos isn't a pit. Chaos is a ladder. That's interesting. I like that. Yeah, exactly. Timberlake, Leonardo DiCaprio. Then, of course, if you watch enough YouTube, you'll know that they are clones created by the Illuminati and the Queen of England. That's my new favorite conspiracy hole to go down because those people are amazing dumb. Like they make flat earthers go, hey, slow down. I am writing a book. I've been working on it for quite a while. There are 2 of them. One is a QAF book where I go through each episode and kind of tell my experience while we were shooting the episode, and then maybe interview some of the other actors who were on the show about their experience. Life stuff, not about the actual shooting of the show itself, but the idea is like, what were you doing that day? What was your life? And because we all moved to Toronto and we were all thrown into this thing, it was kind of an interesting thing. And so, and then the other one's called Split the Difference, an Actor's Guide to Acting with Actors. It's a comedy book for actors to learn how to act. Yeah. Right. Thanks, All Pro Edits. Yeah, it's just a long process because basically I rewatch each episode and look back through my like appointment books and go, what was exactly happening? Yeah, she got busted for a fake ID. It's adorable. It's okay. It's not something we recommend, but everybody gets a free pass for child shenanigans. One of the reasons why childhood actors have such a hard time is because they make all their mistakes in public and everybody else gets to get theirs erased. There's a reason why we expunge things that kids have done under the age of 18, and child actors don't get to do that because you can't expunge people's memories in that regard. Diane, what is an Illuminati band? Yeah, apparently anybody who says okay is in the Illuminati. And of course, I clearly am. I'm clearly, in the... Yeah, I have a lot more sympathy having worked on... I mean, I already did in a lot of ways, just being around it, but for Disney kids and what they go through in their experience, and just you got to give these kids a lot of latitude to screw up because everybody else got to do it in private. That's right. Yeah, you also the triangle through the eye. That's the all-seeing eye. If you do that, And almost any publicist will tell you, do one of those because there's lots of these nutcases that will just publicize you like crazy. If you want some instant publicity, and it won't really harm you because these people are nutcases, but they'll spread it everywhere. Just do a triangle over your eye or go okay or, Yeah, they're flipping out because somebody actually says, okay, yeah. It's 666. It's, whatever they think it is. But whatever Stephen Miller could do, white power gang signs and get away with it. Uh-oh, the tube's acting up. I did this sign and it all fell apart? Is that what happened? Right on. Cool. All right, I'm going to have to sign off because I got to go play with the kid before I go to this big tech event. But you guys are wonderful as usual. I think I'll pop up later on or maybe mid tomorrow, depending, on for a little bit and kind of do one of these like quick chats too, or that kind of thing, like a little supplemental super chat video gathering. But anyways, I just want you guys to be able to see that I can read and interact with what you're doing. And eventually we will be able to, let's see, did that work? Yeah. Yeah, that one, okay. That eventually I'll be able to do this stuff with some regularity. I'm not going to put everything you say up there. As the Mooch, yeah. Did you guys like the Mooch video? I just couldn't not do that because I got stuck to it. So anyways, you guys are wonderful. Think very strongly about how you'll address this whole, we've got to purge the anybody but true believers all the time. That illness, that's got to go. It's not healthy, and you guys are the perfect group to do it because you're lovely and you actually want stuff to get done right. And I will see you again next time, and I'll leave you with this really cool goodbye graphic. Banana, banana. Not anymore. Okay, I guess that's it. Okay.